I'll get this
Oh, wow.
gavel over where I can reach it. I'd like to call to order the Presque City Council meeting for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. We have 6 out of 7 councilors present, so we have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to tonight's meeting. The first item of business is our public hearing section of tonight's agenda. There are 6 different items, so we'll have 6 separate public hearings. The first public hearing item is to approve a automobile graveyard permit for Paul Jalber, doing business as Jalber Auto and Salvage at 204 Chapman Road. So I'll open it up to the city manager and introduce the topic, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your attendance. This is an automobile graveyard permit. After review of the application, review of the facility, we do find it to be in good standing, and we do recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against this proposal? We'll open up the public hearing at this time. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask City Council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve an automobile graveyard permit for Paul Jalber, DBA Jalber Auto and Salvage, 204 Chapman Road.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Councilor Green and seconded by Councilor King. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Second item in the public hearing is to approve to amend Chapter 48 General Assistance Ordinance Appendix A through H. Also a single hearing. So again, we'll ask our city manager to talk about that subject.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the standard rate increases for general assistance. So these are the 2024-2025 rates for general assistance. We have done a review of rental prices in the area as well as incomes. We do feel that we are aligned, and we do recommend approval in alignment with this.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up the public hearing and ask the public to comment for or against this proposal, and that will be the opportunity to speak. I see we have somebody with a microphone ready. Good. It's nice to have an assistant. Thanks. Thanks, Eli. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll ask City Council for a motion.
Quick question, Kevin. Are we allowed to change these figures if we need to? Or how does that work?
So the figures are based off of incomes and then rental prices within the area. We can choose to go with alternate rates if we feel that our rental rates and income requirements are not matching what they have put forth.
Okay. The only reason I asked is because I had one concern. Someone brought to me on the burial maximums and cremation maximums, because those do not cover their hard costs.
Understood, and I'm actually going to let Ms. Finnemore speak on that because she is our general assistance expert.
Yeah. Caribou pays a little more than we do for general assistance because we go by the state law. Under Caribou's ordinance, and I'm not sure what exactly it is, but they have agreement like 30 years ago that they pay an extra $500 or whatever. I know that funeral places have, told me concerns about that. They give more over there than we do, but that would be having something to do with our ordinance. Like, you would have to say, you pay X dollar amount above what GA allows.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So, anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the amendments to Chapter 48 General Assistance Ordinance Appendix A through H.
Second?
Been moved by Mr. Councilor Willett, seconded by Councilor King. Is there any other comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Item 3, public hearing, approval of an automobile graveyard permit, junkyard permit for Cowett's Used Auto Parts doing business as CAR Parts at 75 Davis Street and 259 Fort Road. I'll ask the city manager to introduce that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is again for another automobile graveyard permit for Cowett's Auto. Application has been reviewed. They are in compliance with all tax pieces, and we do recommend approval at this time.
Thank you. To open up the portion of the agenda for public hearing, if there's anybody who'd like to speak for or against this application, now would be the opportunity to do so. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask City Council for a motion.
Kevin Ficken, I believe it's noted both addresses 75 Davis Street and 259 Fort Road. I don't believe 75 Davis Street is their property any longer. Just a minor thing.
I think they put that on the application.
No, it's just a Fort Road.
Okay.
So we
Because,
should,
well, 75 Davis Street was on their application, I think, last year as well, or last time. But,
That's Allen's property.
Chris Allen's been in there that whole time, so
I
I don't know
I think he
what
owns
the,
it.
if they own like a portion, like, of that building still, like if the back half, or.
I think they rent space there, I think is the answer. And that there's still a component.
I got you.
Okay, so we
That
still
makes
wanna
sense.
note that. Okay.
So leave it as 75 Davis Street and 259 Fort Road.
I guess. Yep.
Kim, would you agree?
Well, it only says 259 on the Fort Road here.
Yeah, the application's 259 Fort Road. Kim,
Yeah.
did we
And that might have
utilize?
been from years before. And the picture on the back just shows the 259.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'd say just the 259.
Okay.
Strike 75
Strike
Davis
75,
Street.
yeah.
Okay.
Does everybody understand that we're really just granting a permit for 259 Fort Road
Mm-hmm.
and not 75 Davis?
Okay.
Okay,
Just cleaning up the paperwork.
accuracy counts. All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0.
Who's first and second?
What's that?
You didn't make a
You didn't say
motion.
first, second.
we didn't motion it.
Oh, I thought, King and you did.
That was the one before.
All those, who would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve an automobile graveyard junkyard permit for Cowett's Used Auto Parts doing business at 259 Fort Road.
I'll second it.
Oh, wait.
I'll give that one.
Okay, thanks for that one.
Been moved by Councilor Willett, seconded by
Me, this
Councilor
time.
King. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Glad you guys are keeping me straight. All right, item 4, approval of application for a malt spirituous and vinous license for TALK Pizza LLC, doing business as Pat's Pizza of Presque, with a location of 9 North Street. I'll ask the city manager to introduce item 4.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, malt spiritus and vinous liquor license for Pat's Pizza. At this time, in review of their application, it is correct and current. All taxes are current, and we do recommend approval.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against this application? Now would be the opportunity to speak. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for Talk Pizza LLC DBA Pat's Pizza Presque, 9 North Street.
Moved by Councilor Green. Is there a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Councilor Williams. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. Item 5, approval for adult use of medical marijuana license to Paul Jalbert and Sam Gravely doing business as Paul and Sam's with a location of 9 Parsons Road. I'll ask city manager to introduce this topic.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for an adult use and medical marijuana license at 9 Parsons Road. We had previously, the Marijuana Application Review Board had reviewed the application, and they have approved it. I will say we do have some concern over the current status of the building. It is still under construction, and it is still in process. It is not at this time usable. That said, the Marijuana Review Board does recommend approval or potential conditional approval based upon the building following the building meeting code when they do go to open.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anybody that would like to speak for or against this proposal at 9 Parsons Road in Presque. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a council motion.
What's the location to ACAP? Is it too close to ACAP? Or is it outside the boundaries for it?
It's already been reviewed by them and passed it, so
So
they look at that.
it would not be, it is not too close to a school zone.
So we can grant it. But there's also prior to starting any electrical and plumbing work, secure permits. I mean, just by granting a license, doesn't mean we can open up shop tomorrow.
So he was saying we can do a conditional one.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any commerce transacted prior to certificate of occupancy, correct?
Right, they have to have the certificate before they can,
So all
At
the
the
plumbing
business.
and everything else has to be completed prior.
right.
So just because that stuff's not in place right now isn't necessarily a reason to deny his application, correct?
Right.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a medical marijuana retail license for Paul Jalbert and Sam Gravely located at 9 Parsons Street.
And moved by Councillor Willett, seconded by
I'll second it.
Councillor King. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? 6-0, thank you. Item 6, approval of Chapter 64 Public Camping Ordinance, our second hearing. I'll ask the city manager to introduce this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Chapter 64, our public camping ordinance. We have held multiple workshops and community discussions in regards to this ordinance. We have gone ahead and made the changes that were discussed at the last workshop, which entail a 30-day notice in advance to anyone camping illegally, should this ordinance pass. So therefore, they would have 30 days to vacate the premises that they are currently on. That is the major change to the ordinance, and it is available for your discussion.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anybody that'd like to speak on behalf of themselves, either for or against this ordinance adoption. So we'll open it up.
I got a dumb question, so I haven't been involved in any of these before, but if somebody set up a tent on a business property, they have 30 days before they have to vacate?
No, sir, you would contact the police, and that would be trespassing if someone was on your business property or your property.
And if the business was not operating at the time? Is it,
This shall apply to all public spaces where signs are posted notifying as such.
So the distinction
Public.
would be public versus privately owned.
thank you.
Yep, so we're in a public hearing, and if there's anybody that'd like to speak for or against this, now would be the opportunity to do so. Am I good? Okay.
Can I make a motion?
We're in the public hearing part. Have to wait. Come on up. Somebody's got to break the ice.
Yeah.
Come on up.
I guess I'll be the one.
Right up. Yep. This is so that everybody on social media and our recordings can hear you guys. So if there's any comments, please come up to the podium and do that. Thank you.
Council members and public, I appreciate you hearing me today. My name is Christopher Tutt. I am an implant into Presque, but it made this my home. We own 2 homes now and within Presque city boundaries, pay taxes in Presque, own business in Presque, interact with council, and I have some concerns about this ordinance from a few different angles that I can see this not being beneficial for either city budget or the people who are being criminalized for being homeless. Now, I do take my children down to Riverside Park and have observed open drug use, open drinking, found needles in the sandbox over there, which is very concerning as a parent. I think that there are enforcements that could be done to combat the drug use and the open drinking, which we have laws on the books against, that we should be definitely enforcing those laws, holding those people accountable, and criminalizing that behavior, because that is truly criminal behavior. But the fact that someone doesn't have a home, can't afford a home, has been displaced because their home was sold to an investor that then flipped the property, and now we have a very big housing shortage here, which I've discussed with town manager and other council members. We need to address that housing shortage in the resources for these people. The jails are full, the homeless shelter's full, and I just see this turning into a very big, costly circle for the city that, okay, so we utilize police resources to enforce this law. So there's money spent. Now we throw them in our jail. We feed them. There's money spent. Then they go before a judge. There's money spent tying up our court system. Now, do they actually show up to their court date? No, if chances are not, they're not going to show up. So now we issue a warrant. There's more costs that come from this. Then we use the police force to enforce said warrant, which costs us again as the taxpayers. And then we pick them up, put them in jail for them to not show up at another court date, or say they do, we assess a fine. These are people who can't afford a home. Do we think that they're actually going to be able to afford the fine? So now they're in default of the judgment against them for the fines that they've been assessed. So once again, warrant issued, back to jail, and it just turns into this revolving door that's not solving the problem, and it's costing us taxpayers a lot of money at that point. Once they've been picked up, missed their court date, issued warrants, been before a judge a few times, into the jail, which is already full. I think we should be more focused on finding resources for these people, that in utilizing federal funds, state funds, city allocated funds that can address this problem rather than criminalizing. Now, enforce the criminal behavior. That's the other side of this. You know, we see someone openly drinking, openly using drugs, in possession of drugs or drug paraphernalia in the park. You know, I want the park to be a safe place for everyone, especially in a selfish manner for my kids. You know, and that we take the scouts there, PAC 171. My kids are in the scouting program. We were out recruiting other scouts this past Sunday, and there were people who were passed out from drug use in the park while we're trying to recruit people into wholesome activities. It makes people nervous. But I don't think that criminalizing this behavior, even with a 30-day, here's your 30-day notice, what is that going to do? You know, if they don't have the resources to move into a place now, are they going to have resources in 30 days when that notice is up? And then now we cart off all the few worldly possessions that they do have. There's a human side to this as well, that we, you know, as it takes a village to raise a human. And I think we need to act as a village and lift people up, give people opportunity, and provide them, you know, something has to give one way or the other. But I just think criminalizing is going to end up costing us way more than it's going to benefit us. And I just see it as wasted allocation of funds for number one, and number two, very inhumane. I mean, we treat dogs more humane than that are on the loose. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this public hearing section for Chapter 64, Public Camping Ordinance? Hi, welcome.
My name is Melissa Renche. I do not live in Presque, but I spend a lot of money here. In 2009, I was homeless, and it was a really, really dark time in my life. And I worked really hard to get out of that. And I own my own very successful business. I have a very successful career right now. I probably wouldn't have if I lived in a place that had an ordinance like this, because I would have been arrested for probably breaking and entering into an abandoned building or business, somewhere that I had to go to stay warm. I was sleeping on the streets with my dog, who was my protector. This is not always a somebody is hooked on drugs issue. It is a somebody has hit rock bottom issue. And you're kicking these people when they're down, and even more so when you take their last worldly possessions. Imagine you're 4 decisions away from being homeless. Everybody is. Think about how close you really are to homelessness, if you really think about it. You have a picture of your parents, and that's maybe all you have. And you get kicked out of where you're staying, and that picture is stolen from you and thrown away. What a heartless, horrible thing to do. Criminalizing homelessness, it just shuffles people between streets and jails when their only true offense is not making rent. It worsens rather than solves the problem. There is real change that can happen, but everybody has to work together. You can't just shove them in jails. You can't just arrest them. It doesn't fix anything. And think about the legacy that you're going to leave on the council of Presque Isle. You criminalized people that just cannot afford to rent. That's pretty horrible. So, Dalai Lama said our prime purpose in this life is to help others, and if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them.
Thank you very much. Anybody else that would like to comment on Public Hearing, Section 6, Chapter 64, Public Camping Ordinance?
You've got a fan club already.
Not often people give me mics, so watch out. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to be here. My name is Heidi Ratcliffe, and I am the Chief of Program Officer for Aroostook County Action Program, one of the largest social service agencies in Aroostook County. Wanted to talk about some stats that I think are really important and help explain what's going on a little bit with our community. Aroostook County is made of 27,000 people. And in 2019, which is the last stats I could find, the state of Maine that said 95.6 were native born. That means only 4.4% of people came from away. Really important because everybody thinks I bust people up, and so I thought that was important to mention that. Of our population, 15% of people are struggling with 100% of poverty. And so for those of you who don't know, percent of poverty is based off of how much income you have in your household, and then also how many household members you have. So 100% of poverty means someone is not able to earn more than $15,000 a year or $1,200 a month. So I went a little higher and I said, what does 150% of poverty look like? Ladies and gentlemen, that's 30% of our population. 30% of the citizens of Aroostook County do not make more than $1,800 a month. The average rent in Aroostook County, based off of fair market rents for a 1-bedroom, is $787, with a 2-bedroom being $984, and that does not include utilities. That's an estimated 61% of someone's income alone. And we are wondering why we are having a homeless crisis. HUD says that affordable housing is 30% of your income. And if you have earned income, the max you should go is 40%. But yet, our fair market income, 60% of their income. Maine Housing Production Needs Study, I was just at the Governor's Housing Senate Summit last week, and the Maine Housing Production Needs stated that Maine is behind 38,000 annual homes due to the unmet need of unproduction in the past decade. 5% of Maine's total housing inventory is what we are behind. And by 2030, we are going to be behind 28,000 to 46,000 homes. These stats are pivotal in any movement and action that we make because this is our population. These are our members of our community. I've already passed out to the city councilors stats, and I do want to pass these out. I'm sorry, I only printed 30. So can I have one of them to reference it? Thank you. I should have it memorized by now. We've recently opened the Norman L. Fournier Supportive Housing Complex after 4 years of seeing this problem arising and wanting to be in the position to be able to help make a difference. I provided stats on all of our residents that were able to enter that facility 2 weeks ago. Hasn't been a month at this point. We have, of the 13 units, the average age of the tenant is 38. The youngest age of a tenant is 19. The age of our oldest tenant is 65. We have 4 tenants over the age of 55. 8 households, not tenants, hold high school degrees or higher. Our rent is $618 for our efficiencies, and our 1-bedrooms are $739. We have 10 male individuals, 3 female. So we have 11 occupied, I would like to say actually as of yesterday, we have 12 occupied units. And at this point, 6 of those units are employed. There's a lot of myths that go around with homelessness. And of the 11 units that were taken at the time, 10 of them had income. 4 had disability, and 6 had income. I also decided to put all of where the previous residency was for all of the individuals that are occupying our Fournier unit. Everybody was Aroostook natives, except for one person who was promised employment to relocate here, and then realized how far Fort Kent was, and there wasn't a homeless shelter, so ended up coming here because he had no options. The average person of homelessness was 18 months before they accessed our facility. 18 months. And I'm sure many of you have seen several of the tenants living outside of our building. They're in our housing now. This is the population that this ordinance would have affected. 6 of these individuals were sleeping outside because the shelter was full. There was no area for them to go. 3 of them were living in their car. Your ordinance states that individuals aren't able to live in their car if they become homeless. So where does an individual go if they have no place to live in their vehicle? Our shelters are full. I'd love to say that I have a magic wand to end homelessness. I don't think any one person does. It is going to take a village, as Mr. Tutt mentioned earlier, and several solutions. I work for community action agencies whose purpose and design is to implement programs based off of community needs, and Fournier Place was the start of that. I could use about 4 more of those buildings. It takes time, funding, zoning, all of the barriers that we had to start this in the first place. We're painting homelessness with one picture. We are saying that an entire population is under one brushstroke. That an individual has to be homeless must have made really poor decisions in life, whether that be mental health or substance misuse. It's not. And these facts show you that it is not because of always poor decisions. I am not saying that every individual experiencing homelessness is perfect. I am saying far from that. But I am saying that the majority of our stereotypes in this ordinance is planning on helping a minority, not the majority, of the people that are experiencing homelessness. What works for one person is not guaranteed to work for everybody. What I do know is that this ordinance, which I commend you all for taking the first step, because if it's done anything, it has brought the community to say, we have a problem and we need to do better. And so it was this ordinance that made this room packed. Your ordinance states that this is going to be enforced by a PD. I have a very close loved one that has had years of law enforcement experience. I can assure you he didn't go into this field to enact ordinance such as this. Your social service agencies do not have funding to do this work. I have 3 contracts that addresses individuals experiencing homelessness, and one of them allows outreach. I cannot do work that I do not receive funding for. I believe that this ordinance, if worst case scenario has to happen, it needs a rewrite. It needs to be person-centered focused. It needs to be solution-based. It needs to have the individual that is experiencing homelessness with what services we are going to be provide rather than penalizing. We need to give alternative housing options. If they are not to be where they are, where can they go safely? Without having this, I will tell you where they're going to go. They're going to stay in our PD's lobbies. Our ER is going to be packed more than it already is, because that is the only 24-hour facility that is available right now. And they're going to go to the social service agencies who do not have an answer or a resource to be able to assist. This ordinance can do a lot of things, but I truly believe the negative impact is going to be the biggest part. A strain on our resource. We're penalizing a population for no alternative location. It's a negative impact on the community. We're teaching a culture of fear and division rather than collaboration and compassion. And that's not the area that I want my children to be raised in. If you want action and you want solutions, we need people at the table. We need county, we need city officials, we need business people to support the ideas. We have social service agencies that meet once a month, Homeless Stakeholders Group, which consists of over 30 different social service agencies. There's only so much we can do. We need support from our friends to make this happen. We have funding coming both federally and state level in the way of the Housing First model, but we need developers. We need property managers, and we need support to make it happen. Tonight I'm asking for time. I'm asking for time and to reconsider this ordinance so that we can do this the right way.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against this ordinance? Please come on up. Welcome.
So I don't want to reiterate or say anything that anyone prior has already said. So I'm going to talk about my favorite thing, which is money. In the wake of this ordinance, and since our last meeting, we have been able to sit down, apply for a grant for the shelter so that they can extend their warming shelter 18 months. Now that's just a start. We have 60 that are unsheltered right now. That's 15 beds that'll be open on November 1st. That is a quarter of the solution there. Let us continue to have these conversations so that we can continue to make progress like that and get us what we all want in the solution in the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak for or against this item during the public hearing section? Kim, I've got one written one. Do you have a copy of it?
Yes,
Anybody like to read that, or I'll read it?
You can
Yeah,
read it.
I'll read it. So this was submitted to us regarding the public hearing on camping ordinance, and I'll read it in its entirety. I respect the tremendous thoughtful work done by the working group on the camping ordinance. That said, I still believe it is unnecessary. There is already an ordinance in place to restrict camping in Presque city parks. This ordinance adds to the impression that human beings are temporarily or permanently without traditional housing are in some way a danger to the public. This is simply not the case. Ordinance adds an unnecessary burden to law enforcement. Our social service providers do all that they possibly can to meet the needs of less fortunate people in Presque. Law enforcement and social service agencies already do a tremendous working job together to serve our community. This ordinance is simply not necessary, and I encourage the council to reject it. Thank you so much, and that's from Meg Hageman here in Presque. Is there anybody else that would like to add any comments about the about the camping ordinance? Anybody from the other room? Give them a minute. Anybody coming? Okay. We'll close the public hearing and we'll ask City Council for their comments and a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, I'd like to table this ordinance. We had a earlier meeting right before this meeting with Heidi and Shelby, and we've also had several working groups. Councilor King and City Manager and others have been working also with the group that Heidi mentioned of folks in Aroostook County. So just to go back just quickly, the genesis of this really was the fact that we, as the City Council, get the input of a lot of the public, and a lot of the public's input is, what are you going to do about it? So we asked the legal team to look at that and to say, you know, what's out there for ordinances, what's out there for solutions, possibly. In doing that, what came out of it was discussion, and discussions that have now occurred with many of these community partners. And so we've gone through the process. You know, we've had 2 hearings. This is the second one, and very good discussion about what is homelessness, what isn't homelessness, what solutions might be appropriate, what might not be appropriate. So I don't think that as this sits that it's anything that any of us have any desire to enact. But I do think it's something that started a conversation that now we can take into the future, and we can, as a group, work on that. And something that I think we owe a duty to everyone to work on. So I think that's what came out of this. So I guess what I would do at this time is I'd recommend we table this ordinance. As Heidi mentioned, maybe there are some things we could do from a legal standpoint that would help to strengthen our support services in the community, and it may not look at all like this. So I think that is where I would like to head next, and definitely table this for us to have further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
There's a motion on the floor to table indefinitely Chapter 64, the council camping ordinance. Chapter 64. It's been moved by Craig and seconded by Hank. Is there any other comments or discussion?
I'd like to add, if I could, just quickly, that this ordinance wasn't crafted to criminalize or penalize anybody per se, but kind of a step in the right direction, I was thinking, to show our community and our concerned citizens that we do care, and we're trying to find a solution or means of doing something versus doing nothing. And like many have said before, there's no right answer. There's no magic wand. There's no manual for this. And it certainly wasn't intended to be directed to chop anybody down who was really struggling and working hard to get back on their feet and become productive members of society. But there's also another aspect of another segment of homeless populations that don't have anything, literally nothing. No help, nothing. They got no pride. They got no mental capability. They have literally nothing, and be it by choice or any other misfortune, and those are the ones that seem to be the ones that aren't getting the help right now. ACAP's doing a great job. They're helping all kinds of people that are that need the help. Everybody needs the help, but this ordinance wasn't directed at. I don't know. Maybe the ordinance covered too many. I don't want to say was made as a broad brush, if you will, but there's some work that needs to be done. And I think everybody that's interested or involved will be working towards coming up with some sort of solution. So be patient. Time being, deal with it. People are working on it. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment they want to say? Before we vote on it, I want to clarify a couple of things, because unfortunately we really didn't hand out, and we should have handed out this for people to have this available so they could read what these 3 1/4 pages say. There's a lot of white space here and not a lot of words. It was meant to be an ordinance that established broad guardrails, and I wanted to specifically look at the camping policy. The ordinance establishes guidelines and directions for camping within the city of Presque. This ordinance applies to all public land. No person may occupy a campsite in or upon any sidewalk, street, alley, lane, public right-of-way, park bench, or any publicly owned property, or under any bridge or waterway. It goes on to talk about sleeping on sidewalks, streets, alleys, and within doorways prohibited. No person may sleep on public sidewalks, streets, or alleyways at any time as a matter of individual and public safety. No person may sleep in any pedestrian or vehicular entrance to public or private property abutting a public sidewalk. In addition to any other remedy provided by law, any person found to be in violation of this section can be immediately removed from the premises. Definition of camping is to camp, or camping means to set up, pitch, use, or occupy camp materials with the intent to facilitate sleeping, storage of personal belongings, or carrying on cooking activities. There was a section that's been mentioned about criminalization and some other things. In the mitigation section, I'll go to enforcement first, and then we'll talk about mitigation. Enforcement. Upon discovery of a campsite on a public property, removal of the campsite by the police department may occur under the following circumstances. Prior to removing the campsite, the city shall post a notice 30 days in advance. At the time a 30-day notice is posted, the city shall inform a local agency of the location of the campsite. After the 30-day period has passed, the police department is authorized to remove the campsite and any other personal property related hereto. Going down to mitigation, all reasonable attempts to ensure services are provided to any community member found to be in violation of this ordinance must be completed prior to any removal. Section B is upon conviction for violation of this chapter, in addition to any other factors deemed appropriate by the court, a court shall consider mitigation whether or not the person immediately removed all personal property and litter, including but not limited to bottles, cans, and garbage from the campsite after being informed it was in violation of the law. And then finally, section 7 is the sunset provision, which is just like all other ordinances in the city, that this ordinance shall be enforced from 4 years from its effective date. It shall become null and void upon the expiration of the 4 years from said effective date unless recommended and required by city council to remain effective prior to such expiration date. Basically, what I'm trying to do is point out that these are very, very broad ordinances designed to put people in touch with services that they may not have been aware of. A lot of people are from our area, as Heidi pointed out, very true. Some people are not and may not know what services we have to offer. Now, I don't carry a badge. I know that a lot of our people that are in law enforcement that do carry badges are doing duties that they were not originally signed up for, but they're doing them. This may be one of the small things that they could do that actually may make a difference in a person's life, to be able to get them the help that they need to connect them with services. If they're just going to languish in a public space and until winter comes, I feel like that is doing nothing for them, not helping them at all. No. Sorry. Your time was up. Now, the motion in front of us is to talk about tabling it down the road. And that's fine, because we can do some more dotting of the i's and crossing of the t's. We can make this perhaps better for a lot of other people. That's great. And I'm encouraging that we do that. But I don't feel that people really understood what this camping ordinance is all about. So that's why I read through this. I think that it's been turned into a demonizing thing, that we're pushing the weight of city government on top of less fortunate people, and that's not at all the case. We're trying to be a part of a solution as opposed to, as one person said, doing nothing. Doing nothing is not acceptable. That's what we're elected to do. What I'm elected to do and the other 6 councilors are elected to do. So can we do a better job in the future? Most likely. And but I'm concerned that time minimizes the importance of what we're trying to do here now, and this issue is not going to go away. So part of me says we shouldn't table this, we should tackle it.
Well, I appreciate your sentiments, but I think we've got a room full of people that are ready to tackle this. I mean, maybe it took a little time to get to where we are, and it took a little prodding to get to where we are, but we're here now. And rather than, I guess, just the mouth service, we need to follow through, we need to get these services, and we need to get the issue taken care of.
Yeah,
There's a bunch that didn't show up too, that didn't
and
feel they needed to, but we're not gonna get into it.
And again, guys, there's no time ticking here, but I am concerned that the more time that goes by, the less important this may seem to people, and we don't have the help, the willingness to be a part of a solution as time goes by. So that's the challenge to everybody here, that if this doesn't get done in the next 30 to 60 days, you got to stay tuned in, because it's not going to get solved by itself. Okay, that's my rant. Sorry. You guys have anything you want to say, comment?
No, I'm good.
So there is a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of tabling the motion? All those opposed? 4 to 2. Motion is tabled. All right. Next item of business is the citizen comment section. So this is the opportunity for people to address this Presque City Council on anything that they'd like to comment on. This will be the only opportunity for people to comment on other items tonight. So if you're here to talk about the downtown VTI program, now's the time to talk about it during citizen comments section. So we'll ask people to come on up one at a time, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes or so, please. Thanks. So who'd like to be the first one in citizen comments? Jump up. Welcome.
Howdy. My name is Noah Rush Mabry. I live in Easton, 227 Conant Road. I wanted to talk about the downtown infrastructure. The amount of money that's being offered currently to work on problems that are going to crop up inevitably is, it'd be silly not to take it. I understand people don't want, you know, to take the road and make it smaller. But you think about Main Street and walking down Main Street, how enjoyable is it, you know, having semis come by, going 35 miles an hour. People don't slow down. You drive through sections and, I mean, right in front of the theater, people stagger themselves. You can't run 2 cars down there and have the parked cars. You're close to the doors of it, the mirrors. So realistically, and then add snow. How much fun does that make it? It makes it even smaller. So if we can put parking in front of businesses on Main Street that people actually want to park in. People don't right now. They don't know where to park, or they park on a side street. So realistically, you know, the infrastructure side of it, that's a big project. And if we can get assistance from the federal government, money that's coming as more or less of a one-time offer type thing, as opposed to, you know, this probably won't be here 5 years down the line. And there are going to be problems with water lines and all that stuff. So let's take what we can and make our community better with it. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to comment during citizen comment section? Here she comes.
Thank you. I noticed that nice picture on the wall there of the college. And I comment on that because I remember the first meeting they had regarding the revitalization of downtown was in that building. And the guys that were talking about the redesign of Main Street were driving a car from Portland with 2 bikes in the back. And they parked in front of the building where it said no parking. So their culture in the city might be to bike and to walk a lot. But apparently they parked as close as they could to the building, even though it said no parking. They didn't quite get the message, and I said, guys, there's a tow truck out there towing the Subaru off. Towards the end of my rant. I'm not here to rant tonight. I'm here to say that, you know what? We all want to keep everybody happy in Presque. We want to do what's right for everybody. And I hope that that's done. And I'm not sure what that answer is. But I do know that we better do it PDQ. And PDQ might not mean something to every young person here, but my father used to say that a lot. Nor does VPI to me. I had no idea what VPI was tonight. I don't watch council meetings on television. I happened to get a call from a local business owner. There'd be comment tonight. And I don't know, I think we could have done a better job. You could have done a better job as a city council to describe what this was you were going to have comment on tonight. What is VPI? You might know it. We have acronyms with General Motors. Trust me, you'd never know. I even don't know, and they come out new ones every day. But PDQ is pretty damn quick. That's what my father used to say, PDQ. So anyways, that was my comment on that. I'd like to see everybody's happy. You know, one of the things that came to mind, we've talked a lot about parking and people talked about sidewalks. A lot of things have been discussed, but I remember the city lady excuse me, the DOT lady saying that we don't, after this session, apparently, is it true that the DOT said they don't design roads for agricultural equipment? It's a fair statement to make, isn't it?
Well, they did say that primarily, yes.
But they do design them for Amish buggies and horses, as they did with Route 1A. Were you aware of that? Is anybody aware of that?
The shoulder, you mean?
They made sure when they redesigned 1A, it could accommodate the Amish. And, okay, that was good thinking. That was good foresight. I kind of think we're putting the horse before the cart here still. In that we haven't finished our bypass to the city of Presque. We know it's going to happen. The DOT seems to be pushing us hard towards taking these federal dollars. But when I asked her if there would be money available later, once we became engaged, I didn't get a clear answer on that. And does anybody have a clear answer on that?
I think we can address that, yeah.
Okay. So it'd be interesting to find out what the answer to that is. And, you know, changing my lifestyle, I mentioned the first meeting I went to when I had this meeting at the college. And I like to share the story because it's just kind of how a lot of us might be, and maybe not. But for many years, I ate at the Northeastern Hotel twice a day. I worked 2 stoplights away. I seldom ever walked there. I drove. Why? That's kind of what we do. When's the last time you saw a bunch of bikes at the farmer's market? I go there a lot on Saturdays. I don't see any bicycles there to speak of. One, maybe none, most of the time. I don't care, you know, in this from a personal standpoint. If we slow down traffic by our dealership, they're going to see the cars a lot better than when they're going fast. And I'm sure we can find ways that are safer for people to cross the street to get to the IGA, or in a number of ways we can get them to cross the street, and like they do in front of the theater, or did for a while. So there are many emotions. I just hope that this panel of people that we remember what was decided, and we can put that photo on the wall and say, thank you, gentlemen, for making the right decision for us 10 years from now. They're here to represent us, and I think we're trying to do what's best for the city. But I have to wonder how many people might have concerns and weren't available to speak at this comment session tonight because they didn't know what the agenda VPI meant. And was there any public announcement of this by the name of downtown revitalization, I would ask? Has there been a public announcement by the TV station or anybody? Nobody's aware of that.
Well,
okay, the encampment issue, I'm sure, was not an acronym.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, when this was brought up a year ago, and we had our 2 meetings a year ago, then the VPI name was there, but I think everyone kind of said redoing downtown. People talk about that. And I think at our last council meeting, we discussed the fact of, we're going to redo downtown and the VPI thing. And then we had the 2 separate sessions that we did specially with the DOT, that I think you were at one of those.
Well, those were not city council meetings.
No, those were special meetings just for the public.
Right.
One business owners were invited, and then the public invited. But to answer your question, I think it's kind of gone by a lot of different names. But I think officially, since the beginning, it's always been called the VPI. But if on our agenda, I don't disagree with you that it could have said downtown remodel or whatever. I mean, I guess that.
Did you have pretty good attendance for the first one?
Both nights were full, about like this meeting here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's good attendance. I don't.
Oh,
I don't
well,
watch
for
this
us it
stuff
is.
on TV.
Normally we get nobody.
Yeah. Okay.
And when we do get somebody, they're usually mad at us.
Yeah.
So I think I would say that's probably pretty accurate, or at least they're concerned. But
just
no,
to summarize, my 2
good
cents
turnouts,
would be that I hope everybody's happy with the decision that's made. I think that we're putting the cart before the horse. We haven't done the bypass yet for the city of Presque. It's not far away. I'm sure there'll be federal dollars available in the future, or as the guy from the DOT said, or the consultants. I can't think of the word, but they basically were making a prediction there would be money available in the future. Listen, I've got 10 more years probably, and I'll work a little few less hours. I hope the right city decision is made for everybody. And I really said the few things I wanted to say. So thank you for the time to do that. I'm glad that a business person called me tonight to make me aware of this. And I think there are many people this will affect in a positive and maybe negative way. I think more negative than positive, as I know that I'm not going to start walking anymore to get groceries at the IGA, even though I'm 5 houses up the street. I still see a person, there's a lot of walking, but yet when she goes to the grocery store, 5 houses from the IGA, she drives her car. So downtown walking, you know, I hope hope things just get 100% better. It's all wonderful. But I don't think our chums down in Portland necessarily appreciate the way that we want to conduct our lives in the city of Presque. But the fact there's federal money available to take, sometimes, I'm afraid, makes us make hastily, is that the right word? Hastily? Hasty? Quick decisions. And if we feel like this is a quick decision, I would ask that the council consider tabling that for the interest of all parties that might have something to say about it. And that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, Bert. Mr. Chair, point of clarification, Village Partnership Initiative?
Yes.
Thank you. Just making sure.
Next person that would like to comment for or against this proposal. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, my name is Brent Grass. I farm in Aroostook County with my family. We farm 9,000 acres in a U shape from Ashland to Blaine. And Presque Isle is right in the curve of the U. This community means a lot to me. I don't live here, but we pay taxes here. I spend as much time in Presque Isle as I do in my hometown. And I have a lot of respect for the council here. A lot of you are my friends. I tried to reach out to you, Craig. You said you'd call me on my concerns. I didn't get a call. I feel like this is being railroaded due to your feeling funds are going to run out. I respect your guys' decisions for trying to do that and cover it up and call it VPI. I was alerted to this meeting last minute because I think things have changed on dates, if I'm not mistaken, on how you're going to handle this. I thought this vote was going to happen a little after harvest. And this meeting has taken a lot of sacrifice from me. I pulled away from a 30-person crew here tonight. And I don't mean any disrespect by the way I'm dressed. But this is going to impact my family and my neighbors in a way that I don't feel you guys envision. I stopped and measured some equipment in the field on the way up here. I'm 24 feet wide with 4 pieces of equipment, and the same with another 8 pieces that travel together. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you guys have all considered this. I know Kevin has gone out and measured equipment, some of my equipment. I know you've considered it. I will leave my house at 3:30 in the morning with trailer trucks hauling my product from Ashland to Blaine to process it. I've tried to keep an open mind. I had a lengthy discussion with Kevin on what was going to be done. I left there and I was like, I did some driving around, put some thought to it. Guys, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to fit our community. I'm all about new and modern, and I love what you guys have done here so far. I'd like to see nice sidewalks, nice braille abutments up to the street like you see in Florida. I'd like to see that in our community. I take just as much pride in Presque Isle as you guys do. Please don't hurry this through because the fear of that carrot falling away. There's going to be other chances here, guys. Pick something that's going to fit us. Agriculture, lumber. What else is there here? Who are you going to sell insurance to without those 2 things happening here? Support it, nurture it. It's all we got left up here. honestly, unless I'm missing something here. Please, please, we don't need any more roadblocks. We farm in East Chapman. We purposely send our trucks through Presque because it is a safe respite for us. That Spragueville Road is curvy, it's narrow. We've had many close calls there with equipment that's normal width. The bypass is not an option for us. Our garden is on this side of the bypass, and we have to loop past it. We need to take the shortest path. We have tracks on our equipment for low compaction. They heat up if we have to travel 10 miles further to do a loop and get around. Please don't hurry this through. And I'm all about parking. I want to see access. I'm an avid cyclist. I want all those things too. I want to see as up-to-date modern Presque as it can be. Please think of your farmers and your loggers, the backbone of this area. Don't forget it, please. And much respect to you guys. My brother's on our town council. We think of every town as our town that we farm in. And I know you'll make the right decision, but please don't hurry it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak during the citizen comments section for this evening? We have one up.
Hey guys, thanks for the service you're doing. Brent, thanks for taking time out of what I'm sure is your busiest time. I think we got to listen to what Brent and the farmers are saying, but I think there's also a way that we can make it work for everyone. I was on the council with you guys when we engaged for the VPI project, and I'd been on council for 10 years, and what I did as a councilor and what I was a part of was not putting money into our downtown because it was too expensive to fix. So our sidewalks were built in 1984, stormwater drainage 1950s, 60s vintage. We know the subbase of our downtown is failing because it gets ruddy every few years. We've now had consultants show that we have excess capacity and that because our road is so wide, it's not as safe as it could be. I experience that daily myself, and at the last meeting we had a vision impaired person that's been struck twice saying, what can you do? This project is going to address the safety, but it's also going to address the 30 years of deferred maintenance that we just did year after year after year because it was too expensive to do ourselves. So I remember when I was on council, we looked at just what it would cost to fix the sidewalks at State and Academy, and I think that quote back then was over $1 million. When DOT was here, he said if we did a sidewalk project with them funding it, it'd be a 50-50 match, somewhere around $10 million, so it'd be $5 million for us to fix our sidewalks. I think we got to move forward with a project that gives us 90% of somebody else's money to make our community better and do it in a way that works for everyone. So not just the people that want to jump in a vehicle and drive 40 miles an hour through town, but also for the people that are mobility impaired like myself, are older. We're a age-friendly community. Yeah, we've got sidewalks that old people trip on. And we've got to make it work for our farmers, but I think $3 million to fix our whole downtown is going to save the community in the long run. And I've got to say there's no cost option. If we keep kicking the can down the road, we're going to start having the underneath of our road fail, and then we're going to be paying 100% of it. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to have a downtown that's falling apart even more. When if we do something, and we do something now, we can have somebody else pay 90% of it. So I just, I hope you all think about how a decision sooner than later could bring $27 million of money to our community to make it better, but also being reinvested in the community and set a legacy that is a beautified Presque that works for everyone. instead of just the way that it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of the citizen comments section this evening before we move on in the agenda?
I asked Mike a question. Please.
Go ahead.
Do you think this means they're going to redesign what they've already presented to us? Do we redesign stuff?
I think what was presented as far as the State Street Bridge and the narrow two-lane down by the college, I think it needs to be wider to meet DOT specs, that's how I understand it.
So the final version wasn't what we saw the last time I saw a presentation from them. In your thoughts, just between you and me.
It hasn't been engineered yet. It was a concept plan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just to kind of put a point on that, all you've seen so far is some pictures. No designs, no widths, no final plans, none. No, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name's Fred Grooms. I live in University Street. And, I've heard bits and pieces from different community members. And the narrowing of Main Street, my biggest concern is the added cost it's going to do to the city, especially during snow removal. Because of the way you remove snow from downtown, you are now, if you go to 3 lanes, you'll have to shut down 2 of the lanes to do snow removal, which means you're going to have flaggers available. And especially up University, I live on University Street. If anything bottlenecks at Maple Street on, I'm isolated unless I want to drive out, around the State Park and come back in on Chapman Road, or go out to the Center Line Road and come back in. Those would be my 2 biggest concerns, because unfortunately, every year delays, costs go up. If we could have done this 20 years ago, you could have done it for a fraction, but that's just inflation. But like I said, this is all preliminary. Until we get anything firm, it's hard. We can beat the dead horse, but my biggest concern is how is it going to affect you guys in the future? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on behalf of the citizen comments section for tonight's agenda?
Hello, my name is Morgan Bailey. I live on University Street. I'm an artist and a person who moved here in 2020, and I lived in a lot of places, and Presque is one of the most unwalkable cities. I really appreciate the walking path that goes around town and the fact that it's cleared year-round. That's like one of the best things about this town from my perspective. The rest of the town, especially walking down the main street, is so profoundly unappealing and difficult. Having this project approved would make a huge difference, not just for my personal quality of life living in town, of wanting to be a person who bicycles and walks more, but for the people who live here and people who want to move in and want to live in a town that's actually walkable and bike friendly. Having trees and increased green spaces in the downtown area will help in climate change. We just saw what the hurricane did down south. If we have increased drainage and green spaces in our downtown area, that will reduce the risk of flooding. I understand that there's issues around the road width, and as people have said, that actually hasn't been completely figured out yet. I do think that there's ways to compromise between different parties, but I personally am so excited about this project, and I just want to say that having it go through is one of the most exciting things I've seen happen since I lived here.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on behalf of the citizen comment section for tonight's city council meeting? All right. Before we move on, I really, really appreciate everybody's comments tonight. I know it's not easy to get in front of a room with TV cameras going and 6 or 7 counselors standing here looking at you. But we really do appreciate your input, and we really want you to be engaged in your community as much as we are. And I thank you for your comments this evening. And for those that didn't comment, but just wanted to be here, we're happy to have you guys here as well. So with that, I'd like to move on to the presentation, the first presentation, our first hearing for the 2025 budget. And we'll ask the city manager to introduce that topic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is our draft budget for the 2025 year. At this time, we are looking at roughly $21 million in expenses overall for the city. With that, our total appropriation is roughly $18 million, tax commitment of $16.1 million, and this would drive a potential tax rate increase if it was voted and approved as presented. However, we know over the next few months we will work as a team, and the council will work to review the expenses and ensure proper appropriation. That said, we have had quite a bit of rising cost in the wage in the healthcare sector. We're looking at about an 8% increase there. The roughly inflation, we're looking at 4 to 5% overall. The main driver of our increases this year are salaries and wages. We do have some mandated items that we do have to begin funding, like the state's FMLA. We do have to begin putting, even though we do offer family medical leave, paid family medical leave, we do have to begin funding that as well. And in addition, there are some other expenses that are being imposed upon us. That said, we do have our first budget hearing scheduled for next week on the 8th. That will be a time when our department heads begin discussion with council, and we begin moving forward.
So I want to also invite the public. These are public sessions, so they're all the workshops that are going to be probably at least 4 to 6 workshops between now and the 1st of December to finalize the budget, and they're all open to the public. So if you want to be a part of the process, come on in. We'll show you all the nuts and bolts. This is our budget book for this year, and thanks to the modern technology and stuff, we have gone from the old New York telephone book that was about that thick when I started 8 years ago to this, and there's a lot of backup data that we can pull out of this. This is on our website right now.
Yes, it is.
Yep, it's on the website, so if you've got an interest in any particular department and you want to take a look at, say, Public Works, or if you want to take a look at Recreation and Parks, you can find that and dive deep, as deep as you want to go. If you got any questions, contact any of us here at City Hall, the city manager, our new finance director, Laura, who's here this evening. She's in the back room. That's it. Welcome Laura to the team. She's been here for 2 weeks, so she's working on it. Or contact any of the city councilors. We'd be happy to look at those things. We're going to get to VPI. Just give me 5 more minutes to go through some of the agenda, and then we're going to get to the VPI program. So hang in there, and we'll get to that. So the next item of the agenda is to talk about our consent agenda, which is item 8, approve the minutes from September 4th, 2024. Approve the 2024 warrants number 31 through 36 totaling $2,227,677.72. And item 10, to approve the warrant for a municipal MSAD 1 school election. So, council, how do you want to take these separately or together?
Chairman, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda, items 8 through 9 and 10, as presented.
Been moved by by Councilor Willett, seconded by Councilor Green. Any other comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much. 6-0. Now we'll get to old business and the downtown VPI program. So before, let's dial up item 11 here. VPI program, just as a little bit of background, began almost 2 years ago, as one of our former councilors noted while he was on city council. We've been working on this for a couple of years. There has also been several public meetings hosted by our consultants, TY Lin, and the State of Maine Department of Transportation. One of those was done, or both of those was done, I believe, at the University of Maine in Presque. So the third thing I would like to do, and maybe this is going to empty the room out. There's two dates to keep in mind. Next fall, which would be the fall of '25, is when construction should be beginning on the bypass project going from the Conant Road to Westfield. So turning dirt basically 15 months from now to begin a 2-year project. The state of Maine and the city of Presque understands how important that project is to be finished before anything is done down in Presque. So the VPI program turning dirt won't take place until a minimum of 2029 to 2030. We're sitting in 2024 right now, which means that we have about 5 years to talk about all the design processes. What we're here to talk about tonight is to go ahead with a RAISE grant application. There's a deadline for that application, and the DOT has asked the city of Presque to move this grant application forward if we want to pursue this project. If we don't want to pursue the project, then we'll forget about the grant. So now that I've said that, I'll ask you to introduce the program and see what I left out.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is in regards to the Downtown Village Partnership Initiative that the city has been working with the engineers via the council's discretion for the past 2 years, and there has been multiple iterations of draft design. At this time, council has voted to go ahead with preliminary engineering. However, that can be stopped if it is chosen that this is not the project for Presque Isle. The letter that Jared Gillette had sent is in your packet. Would you like me to read that to the public, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Might as well. That's going to take a few minutes, but go for it.
See if I can. Dear Mr. Brown, Maine DOT understands that the City Council will vote on October 2nd to determine if Presque Isle will move forward with a RAISE grant application for this year. As this would be the third time the Council has deliberated this topic, the Department is concerned regarding a willingness to move forward with the project. There are many significant changes associated with the Village Partnership Initiative, plan phase, final report, and this is with the plan phase and final report. This is a difficult decision for any elected official. However, as stated at several public meetings and council sessions, the department does need to address US Route 1 Main Street through Presque Isle. Regardless of the council decision, Maine DOT will need to move forward with preliminary engineering to ensure coordination for the reconstruction of the road in a timely manner once the bypass is completed. An important matter to consider is that Maine DOT has the full confidence in the report recommendations pertaining to decreased traffic volumes associated with the completion of the bypass. As it is a Maine DOT asset, we are responsible for ensuring the safety of the traveling public for all users and modes. Certain core concepts from the VPI may still be incorporated into any highway project that Maine DOT designs to account for the safety needs of both motorists and pedestrians and other vulnerable users. As there is excess capacity currently and extremely long crossing distances for the pedestrians, a road diet may still be advanced in any highway design project to include reducing the travel lanes near the campus if the safety office determines this as a necessary safety improvement. The areas of access management that contribute to the lessened pedestrian safety along US 1 Main Street will also need to be assessed per our Complete Streets policy. We are required by statute and policy to make safety improvements for any highway reconstruction project we undertake. As it stands, Maine DOT assesses the associated benefits with the RAISE grant as the best possible path forward. What will not be included in our highway project are, as previously stated at several meetings, the following: extensive sidewalk improvements, adaptive traffic signals with GPS coordination for emergency response vehicles, architectural lighting, improved pedestrian connections, including a pedestrian bridge, off-system public parking improvements, wayfinding, and more critically, the added cost benefit to the town for utility coordination for municipal water and sewer. The associated cost savings of coordinating mobilization for municipal water and sewer improvements is another added benefit of the Village Partnership Initiative process. With the Village Partnership Initiative process, the municipality will continue to be a partner in the process and have a larger seat at the table to determine the final outcome of your downtown. Absent the Village Partnership Initiative process, Maine DOT will reconstruct Main Street as a standard highway project. And what is important to note is that even though the project could look significantly different from what exists today, as stated, this is a municipal decision to engage the VPI process. Sincerely, Jared Gillette, Regional Transportation Planner.
All right, thank you very much. So that introduces the scope of the project, and we'll begin with council comments and questions.
Tyler, should we read the public comments that were submitted on this topic? Those have not been read yet.
Yes, I do have one comment here. This is from Mr. Linwood Winslow of Maine Potato Growers. Dear City Council, I'm writing you to adamantly ask you to vote no to commit $3 million in city funds towards a Maine DOT project that would narrow a large section of Main Street to just 2 lanes, with the creation of a grass promenade in one of the existing lanes. I believe your agenda for tonight's meeting calls it Item 11, Downtown BPI. I've attended 2 hearings regarding the project, and I've shared my concerns with council members and the Maine DOT, as well as their consultants. There are way too many loose ends and unknowns for you to pass this tonight. It is my understanding that this commitment was originally expected to be a public vote of the citizens of Presque, but now the MDOT is pressing you for a commitment because the funds may not be available after the upcoming federal election. This is not a reason to vote for a bad deal. Further, the members of the council owe it to the citizens and businesses of this town to have a vote in this huge commitment of money. As the general manager of Maine Potato Growers, I represent our farmer members who will be greatly impacted by this plan. Much of the proposed street overhauls the area from Umpy to the 5-way intersection just over the State Street Bridge. Narrowing this area to 2 lanes simply would not be practical or safe for those farmers. You would basically be kicking them off Main Street, and that sends a pretty bad message to one of the industries that keeps this city thriving. In addition, several farmers now farm on both sides of downtown. They go by here every day with sprayers, planters, harvesting equipment, and much more. Not to mention the city makes money of these same farmers who store their equipment at the industrial park. Oh, makes money off of. Further consider all the other industries and service providers that will be affected by this poor plan. At our industrial park, many of those businesses have oversized equipment, and most of them come down through the 5-way of State Street on down to Main Street when they are going south. These include trusses, 3 farm equipment dealers, a custom spray application business, the National Guard, construction, just to name a few. I will also ask that you consider the impact of supply trucks who are often parked in this area, servicing the restaurants, school buses, making stops in front of Mai Tai, and city snow removal equipment. Also, think of contract snow removal. That means Main Street after a snowstorm and the contractors who work on underground sewer, water, and communication lines. How will there safely be room for these to operate with only 2 lanes? And if they take up a lane, as some have suggested, then you have to agree there really is no lane. One of the pitches for this plan was an important improvement to safety. I would argue the new 2-lane section of Main Street will be less safe. With a Domino's truck parked in the middle of the turn lane or a wide load coming down Main Street that is taking all of the turn lane, there will definitely be more accidents. As a taxpaying business, I am also concerned that there is not a definite plan to fund sewer upgrades that will have to be done as part of this project. What if that costs the taxpayers an additional several $1 million? Don't they deserve to vote? In closing, I know you are all excited for a plan that will pay for infrastructure upgrades to Main Street and to the surface water system. But to commit the taxpayers of this city to the Maine DOT's plan as proposed with one-lane grass promenade down Main Street just seems irresponsible. Stand up and vote no for the industries that operate here. Sincerely, Linwood Winslow.
Any other comments? Or
Those are the ones that I have.
I could have read that during the comment section. I didn't know it was there. No worries. Okay. Would council like to begin a discussion about the BPI program? Who would like to jump in first? Don't speak
Well, I got a
once.
big mouth, so why don't I start? First, apologize to Brent. No, I didn't have a chance to call you. I'm sorry. We had a bunch of things go on. One was a death in the family, and just this week's been a little crazy. So I'm sorry for that, and I apologize. So let me just kind of reiterate a little bit of what we just read in the letter from Mr. Gillette Farnsworth here, or Farn Gillette, excuse me, from the DOT. This is Route 1, okay? So Route 1 is not a city street of Presque. It's not in our purview to pave it. It's not in our purview to do really much of anything with it except for our plow trucks run through town and plow it. Other than that, the duty to repair the street falls on the state. So does the design of the street. So if you kind of read between the lines of what he said is that, you know, at some point they will reconstruct the street. They won't do it till after the bypass is done, but they will do it to their standards however they damn well please. And if that's 3 lanes, that's 3 lanes. And that's going to be what they're going to do. So we don't have in all of this a do-nothing option. We can be part of a process. We can not be part of a process, but we're going to be in the process eventually after the bypass is done, one way or another. So first off, let me just say, from the beginning, I've probably been one of the largest critics of this entire process, and I really think that the tree line thing downtown sucks. And I've said that to everyone that's been able to listen to me. I've said that for months. In fact, I said it all last year, and I wrote a letter to him. And if you look in the first testimony that was given, I think I wrote extensively that I don't like it at all. And that was a year ago. But that being the case, here's what's changed. So this last summer, or that we've just gone through here, they did an upgrade of the pavement downtown because of the ruts. And that was $1 million. That's what the state paid to pave one end of town to the other. And all it is Bondo. So I guess my first thing is I want to tell you is that just like putting Bondo over rust on a car, that's what they've done to our street. Looks really nice right now. It's not going to in a year. It's not going to in 2 years. And just like it was last paved about 5 or 6 years ago, we were right back with the ruts again. So that's not going away. And to fix it, we've got to dig into the street. And they're willing to do that as part of this process. So we are going to have to do underground work in the community, and when they do that, that's going to impact water and sewer lines, it's going to impact utility lines, it's going to impact everything. So whether we do this today and say, yes, we're in for this funding to do this at a 10% versus 90% other funding, or we wait in the future and do it at 50-50, or on some parts of the project we may be 100% ours if we don't do it this way, eventually we're going to have to do it. So the first thing Mike brought up, and thanks retired Councillor Cassie for your comment, because yeah, he's right. About 5 years ago, we got a price for the mid part of downtown, about $1 million to fix sidewalks, just for that. And that's just for that one little piece. But when we asked him to extend it out, I had some notes there, said it was $2 to $3 million if we went beyond that area between State Street and Academy Street and went to the other parts of town that were in bad repair. So again, That was 5 years ago when we discussed sidewalk repair that could cost as much as this entire project would cost the taxpayer Presque to do all of these things, but just for a sidewalk. We also have the issue of stormwater handling in the town. So on the edge of the street, there's the storm drains, and they drain down and they drain into the river. Those are some of the oldest infrastructure we have in town. Some of them are failing. Some of them have created voids around them. And the cost to do those alone, because we will have to do them at some point. And the problem is they set directly under the curb and under the sidewalk. So if it's a catastrophic failure and we are forced to do this because of undermining of it, which we had happen actually right by my office on Academy Street about 2 years ago. We had the undermining of the sidewalk, and there was about a 10-foot void. The pavement started to fall in, and we looked down, and there's this massive hole. You could have lost a car in it, frankly. So we had to fix that. That's what's going to occur around different places in town as these decay and they wash away the soil around them. So at some point we're going to have to address them. That automatically means the sidewalk goes with it. So again, that is a huge cost. All of these items, the road, the underpinning of the road, all of the new gravel, all of that, the sidewalk, the new curb, the stormwater handling are all part of this project. They're all in for the $3 million that we would pay as a community. So we don't have to worry about when they fail in the future because they're all going to be new as of now. And Mike's right, some of them are the 50s and 60s, and most of that is up on the end of town near Walmart, and those aren't being addressed because they are newer. The ones that are downtown are as old as the 1920s, and those are 100 years old, and that's why they're very concerned about it. So that's something you should know. The second part is the Water Sewer Department's a separate entity to the city of Presque, and they have all of the things that they do for their future planning as well. So the money that would come for planning of water and sewer lines that are under the street down in front of the businesses that you're talking about, MPG and Carroll's Auto Sales and all of that area of town, would be addressed during this project and be addressed by the Water Sewer Department. But if they're looking out into the future and saying, okay, we're going to do this potentially in 2029, they have time to plan. And the state water sewer bond funds that come annually, and we always see that on the elections, and I'm sure you're going to see one here in the next 35 days or whatever we're down to now. You're going to see a thing say, do you approve a water bond to create clean drinking water and sewer funds? And those funds are what communities like ours would get to help with the cost of that. So that is not borne totally by the taxpayer. So I know in the letter we just had read to us that was a concern, but that is part of how we would fund those things. The next thing is the grant. So what does this grant do? This grant is a 90-10 match. We pay 10% of it. They pay 90% of it. But the grant specifically requires safe travel from all modes of transportation, whether it's walking, biking, someone that's handicapped in some manner, in a vehicle, or even large equipment for that fact, are all considered in the grant, but they specifically require some level of special accommodation for mainly walking, safety, and bicycling, things that are not motorized. And because of that, that's why as part of this they had in the pictures, and again if you saw the original pictures, you saw this promenade with trees down through town. That is something that we have talked with them extensively. In fact, I even swore at the guy from the DOT the last time we talked privately with them because I'm not frankly very happy about how that looked. And their comment to us was, look, calm down, Craig. We don't have to have trees on your main street. We don't have to have that. But we do need to have some component that's a better sidewalk that allows mobility for that downtown. And they also, as part of that, had the other part that was very important for their education was they went with Linwood and they went in a large tractor and it actually took 2 of them and drove down through the town so they could see what large equipment does in our downtown. At the time they did that, they happened to run into a windrower that was going through town at the same time. It just happened to be that they were doing what they were doing. So from that, they immediately saw the need of the lane widths, the shoulders, and all of the items that Brent has mentioned and others have mentioned that are going to have to be part of their design. And again, to go back and reiterate, this is US 1 through the community of Presque. It's not a restricted road. It's not a restricted service road. We're not going to be able to say, hey, you're too big, you can't come through our town. That's not part of what US 1 is all about. So you might do it slightly differently, but you're not going to be precluded from going through our community. To give you a couple of things on the bypass timeline, Kevin mentioned between 25 and 28 that'll occur, and then this would happen in 29. So future planning. If we're looking out to 2029, the city has time to come up with bonding solutions and savings and things that we can do to come up with our $3 million so it doesn't impact the taxpayer immediately. But so doesn't the Water Sewer Department have time to come up with those water bonds, and whether it's a Northern Border grant or other things to help fund their part of the project as well. If we don't do that, and if we say, okay, we're just simply not going to do that, we don't have a plan, they're not starting design next year, but the gentleman here from the DOT says, well, at the end of the process of our bypass, we're going to come up and start working on your project in Presque, but there's no official project, and they tell the Water Sewer Department, well, guess what, next year we're starting to dig up Main Street, and we're going to be digging up your lines, and you've got to come up with that $2 million, $4 million, $5 million, we don't know. It's going to be a significant figure, but they aren't going to have any time to go after water and sewer bonds. And you, the ratepayers in the city of Presque, are going to bear the cost of that happening, not having time to fund it, which we are going to have if we're looking out 5 or 6 years. So that is a significant concern to us as well for costs. 10 years ago, when I first joined the council, the reason I did is because I wanted to fire the city manager, because he's a son of a bitch, and I wanted him out of town. And nobody liked him, especially me, because he wanted to build a road through my business. And he wanted to redesign downtown at that time. So quite honestly, that's why I ran for office and I got on here, was because they wanted to do something to our downtown that I wholeheartedly believed was terrible. So we got down, had the damnedest meeting you ever saw in your life at the Northeastern Hotel, where they stood up and practically rode the man out of town on feathers and tar. So believe you me, I'm very protective of what our community is in our downtown. And you know, today we've got a city manager we like very much, and he's helping us with things, and so this is great. So I'm much happier today too. The last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to shut up, is that in our community right now, the entrance to our downtown coming by Cooks, I happened to take my tape measure out and I said, okay, right now we're accessing town, and Brent, that's wonderful to know, the 24-foot maximum equipment, kind of that you said was one of your wider pieces. Right now we've got a 14-foot lane by Cooks coming into town, heading north. So if you come down the hill, it's 14 feet wide. The shoulder is 2 to 3 feet, so we have 17 feet right now. So when you drive down the hill at 24 feet, you're going to be into the southbound travel lane with that size of equipment. So that's what exists today. What's proposed, and they have talked about, is a 12-foot lane with at least a 4-foot shoulder. So we're talking 16 feet versus 17 feet. We're not talking about a major change in what that lane width is there. And that's as it sits right now before they've even done any engineering. So again, just to say that's not a cataclysmic change that you're going to have no width to drive your equipment into our community. Our lanes currently downtown, if you then take your tape measure and go down there, are anywhere between 11 and 12 feet wide on the 4-lane section. Again, we're talking about here. So you have 22 to 24 feet right now in those 2 lanes to drive through our community. Then there's the 4 to 5 foot shoulder, depending on where you are, which evaporates once you get towards the middle of town because then there's parking. So currently, that's what you have to go through town, and you're doing it, right now, right? So if we take what is proposed from their numbers, again, they haven't done a final design, but just rough numbers from what we were able to ask of them. They're talking about 12-foot lane widths with a 12-foot turning lane. Again, 24 feet and a 4-foot shoulder. 28 feet, the same width you have right now if we use those 2 lanes to get through town. So as Mike said, I think, we can't design everything to be, a perfect downtown that's beautiful like we'd have in Florida with palm trees and all these fancy things, because that's not us. But neither can we do nothing here, and we need to be able to come up with a project that'll fit most people. And I think with some of the widths and the things that they've talked about, you're still going to be able to drive through our town, and we want you to. We love having you here. You're our lifeblood industry, and none of us are against that, and none of us want that impacted in a negative way.
I'm going to be in that turning lane. Is it all right to speak, or should I?
Well, let me just finish up real quick, and then, but the reality is, we are going to have to address everything they're going to address in this project in some way in the next 10 years. And we're either going to do it at 10 cents on a dollar, or we're going to do it at 50 cents on a dollar, which is the normal share that a community has, which this downtown portion, again, if we did that with this project, that'd be a $15 million bill, not a $3 million bill. And that's today's dollars. If we're looking out 10 years from now, the $3 million bill might be $6 million just by itself anyway, without even any escalation of any part of the project. So we're absolutely able to see what your issue is. We get it. But we also know that the impact on the community for the future and the economics of it are such that this is a very good deal for us to do, to address all of these issues that we're going to have to address. There's no do-nothing option. So I'd a lot rather take the fight to the engineering phase and say, how do we accommodate these people, and the fact that we have 2 major equipment dealers in our downtown, Haynes Manufacturing and MPG, that sit on our main street, and we can't restrict people getting to and from their businesses. So you might do it a little different, and it might be a little tighter. It could be. But I think in the end result, that a little give from you, a little give from us, a little give from them, we're going to come up with a project that meets a lot of needs for a lot of different reasons. And for that reason, all of the things that I still am not thrilled about this project in its entirety, I think the good outweighs the bad, and I that's why I'm in support of it now.
Brent, you want to talk?
No.
Go, Seth.
I fully understand all your things you're trying to weigh. It's not going to make it safer for me. It just is not with those 3 lanes. It cannot. With that turning lane, there's going to be a little old elderly gentleman parked there. He's going to want to turn, and he's not going to move. And we won't be able to move. We're going to block traffic. It will cause issues. Like I said, it's our respite now. We have 2 full lanes. We can get down through there. We don't even hold up traffic, and we can go your legal speed limit with no issue. I just don't know why they're holding them hostage to this design. Everything else is A1.
And just to answer your question, we've asked them that umpteen times, and one thing I didn't say, because I didn't check it off yet, was that there is another grant that comes in February, but it's not the same match, it's not the same money, and it's not the same scope of project. So even if we held this now, this is the end of this grant. The just kind of like all the big COVID monies and all of the extra help the community's got had an end. November is the end of this type of proposal that a community can take part in. So if we don't do it now, we're probably, like Mike said about things earlier, we didn't address things because there's just no way we could ever afford them. This is the first chance we've had to do anything we could even think about affording.
Councilor comments? More questions? More comments?
So, can I ask a question? So if you guys say yes to this grant, how much leeway, I mean, how much say are you guys gonna have? Like,
Well-
or are they gonna hold your reins in really, right? Like, will you be able to say, industry is our lifeblood, and this is what we need, or, and will they go along with that, or will it be more of a, no, this is what we said, and this is what you're doing?
Well, I guess all I can do is read the last paragraph here, that this is from the regional planner from DOT. With the VPI process, the municipality will continue to be a partner in the process and have a larger seat at the table to determine the final outcome of your downtown. Absent this, the Maine DOT will reconstruct Main Street as a standard highway project. And what's important to note, that even that project could look significantly different from what exists today. So in other words, I guess the point is, this is our chance to sit at the table, be a partner at the table because of the process, or we can take our chances at what they design for us in the future, which may or may not be something we like and may be worse. So, and it's going to cost more money. So that's the best, that's as honest as I can tell you.
I think it's always difficult to predict what's going to happen a couple of months from now, let alone 6, 7, 8 years from now. I would rather be at the table with them throughout the entire process than have them drop something on us and say, we're coming in 12 months and we're going to do this. I think there's been good input from our staff at Public Works. Our city engineer has looked at this a bit for the last 2 years, and he's trying to retire too as well, right? So we're all trying to be the best voice of compromise and reason as possible, and I do think that several people that have commented on both sides of this issue tonight have done a great job saying that we know we can't make everybody happy. We're just trying to make sure that we're covering all the bases and we don't rush into it. I don't think anything's been rushed about this, and quite honestly, just to repeat, we're a long ways down the road before we start construction. So you have to do the engineering process first. The engineering is going to determine maybe more things that we're not able to foresee right now. None of that's going to happen if we don't do the RAISE grant. So, I'm in favor of moving forward with the RAISE grant so that we can do the preliminary engineering, so that we can listen to I'm not an engineer, I'm not a traffic engineer. I do drive up and down the street an awful lot, and I have all my life. Mostly accident-free. Mostly within the speed limit, not all the time. We are trying to slow the speed of the cars down on Main Street by going to one travel lane. It is game on at Chapman Street right now. When that light turns green, it's a race to see who can get up to past the college first. That's going to go away. There's only going to be one lane there. So God help somebody who's trying to cross at the IGA store, and those two cars are coming at them right now. So, number of things we can do better. We've got blinking lights over by the University of Maine indicating people are on the crosswalks. Why don't we have that downtown? I think that can be addressed in a VPI process. But also narrowing the street up a few feet. Maybe there's another way of making that safer so that pedestrian doesn't have to scramble to get across the street. Doug? Go ahead.
Okay, I've got a few comments. I'm going to be shorter than Craig, for sure.
Anybody would be.
So, you probably noticed in the letter that the state of Maine DOT gave us. The engineer will basically flat out say it, that the state of Maine is notoriously vague in anything they put in writing, and they do that on purpose. because they don't want to be on the hook for something that they don't want to pay for. So also in that letter, if you read between the lines, they basically said that if you don't want to go through with this, that the road is deteriorating and we can't just keep patching, and they are going to address it themselves, digging things up and doing whatever may need to be proper, with the impression that they're going to do it their own way, and that when they do a major construction like that, it's kind of like a, I don't know if it's the best analogy, but kind of like a code officer. You know, it's fine if you leave it there, but once you start messing with it, you got to bring it back up, or you got to bring it to current. So they're going to look at it from many aspects, including a safety aspect, and they're going to do the same or very similar models that they have done on this project. That, for those of you that weren't there, they even put up on the screen that looked like a little Tetris game, that their cars were doing all this on the roads, and you know, proving to us that their models will work. You know, what happens when a harvester comes down the road? They didn't know, and they reluctantly but factually admitted that the state of Maine does not design their roads for farm equipment. It is the largest vehicle that they had a certain code for, but it's basically an 18-wheeler. So in that model, biggest vehicle they put in it is an 18-wheeler. And if there's a delay that happens because of a piece of farm equipment, that's an oddity, and crap happens, basically. So that's a fact that we've got to kind of live with, unfortunately. Also, with it being a state road, it's right through the center of our town, but they have a major say in what goes on. Let me read my notes here. To confirm, this would only happen after the bypass is done. Their thought is that bypass is going to divert some traffic outside of Main Street, which will lessen the burden of the fewer lanes. And then I guess to look on a numbers aspect, so maximum, very roughly, they're saying that we'd be responsible for potentially 10% of this project, with a rough idea of the project being $30 million. So that's $3 million out of pocket come 2029, 2030. We've already spent in these preliminary engineering phases, out of our pocket, about $120,000. So that is, for some of you that may appreciate this, that's about 4% of what we would be expected of the total project we've only spent so far on this engineering stuff. This next phase, so by going forward with this, does not automatically mean, okay, we're buying the shovel for 2029. It means that we're going through the next phase of engineering. Should our plans and the state of Maine's plans diverge even more, and they come back with a plan saying this is going to happen, and we say, the hell with that, we can still stop this. However, we would have spent about $310,000 on engineering, which is roughly 10% of what the whole project would be. So, knowing that the state of Maine is saying in the next 5-10 years we're going to dig this road up anyways, for basically 10% of what the project would be, we can figure out a much more definite plan of what they're looking at. And not that I want to throw away city money, but the worst that we would ever be in the hole going at this rate would be $310,000. out of a $30 million project. So I guess I just wanted to present that in my mind, we're at 120,000. We spend another 190,000 at this point to get a much more definite plan. Not kind of some of these more pie in the sky, not to be, of offense to them, but it's general planning, pie in the sky, clip art type stuff of a grass promenade. When they can actually put something much more definite down, will be 310 in the hole, very roughly. And at that point, with the amount in size of this potential project, it's a lot of money, but I would still be, I still think that is the best option to kind of open the doors a little more. And if when we open those doors a little more, it is just not going to work, then we close the doors. But I guess that's where my thoughts would be. Does that kind of summarize what the ideas are?
Yeah, and all different pieces of the puzzle. So you didn't duplicate anything there. The word promenade's been used a couple of times. I believe that we're discussing the location of that on one side of the street. It's not down the middle.
Yeah, did I say promenade?
Well, yeah.
But that's not what I meant.
Well, they called it that too.
They call it that, and then that's listed that way. But I think people that are maybe heard this for the first time maybe think that we're doing a divided highway. That was kind of rejected quickly by snow removal, highway department. The third lane thing took over, and the sidewalk thing was going to basically be on, I assume, the west side of Main Street. So, and serve as a connectivity between the University of Maine and the downtown of Presque. So, but they still do talk about that sidewalk as a promenade, I guess. Whether it's got trees or whatever on it or not, I don't know. So, anybody else have any other comments? I want to make sure everybody got enough time to speak.
I'm okay going ahead with the engineering piece of it, but I do have a lot of concerns on the proposal that they gave us, especially for Umpy coming down the hill. I mean, Brent, when you come down the hill in 2 lanes, you won't be able to see the southbound traffic coming over if it's 2 lanes, especially if they reduce it down to the widths. And same thing going through town on all the turning lanes. It causes a big traffic jam, and so I do have a lot of concerns on the widths going through Main Street, especially crossing over the State Street Bridge. Reducing that down is going to cause more traffic. We won't know exactly until we have the engineering done. So I'm okay looking at the engineering, but to find a plan, if it does not work for the industry on the industrial council or the farmers, it'll be a definite no for me, because those are the people that use the Route 1 the most. And if they can't get through, then it's no go. Right.
Absolutely. Hank, anything?
There isn't anything I can say that hasn't already been said, so.
Giving everybody a chance.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Jeff?
No, I kind of echo mainly what Derek just said. And if we can't make this thing work for the people that use it, that are vital to the success of our community, it's a no-go. But I think it's something we should definitely entertain and explore. And I'd hate to pass up something good, but.
And as the engineering comes out, I think we need to publicize it a lot better. Because I did not realize about the VPI until this year when I got on council, was the first I heard of it. And I live right here in town, so I think as an engineering comes out and we get more information, it needs to be publicized quickly to the public so they can see it and they know what's going on just as quickly as we do.
I agree.
One final thing, just to thank all of you in Aroostook County and Presque for being as concerned as you are. Because of all the meetings that we've had, the state and their engineers were almost kind of taken aback about the amount of pushback and the amount of questions that we were giving them. And essentially said all of these other towns that they've done this in, They basically don't even want to look at it. They just say, where do I sign? It's free money. And I guess that just goes to how much we care about our industry, how much we care about how things go. So thank you for everyone for your concerns, whether it's, for or against it. We want to know, and that just kind of shows you throughout the whole state, not everyone thinks like we do.
We care about our downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true. And one thing too, I guess, as an apology from our side of the house to your side of the house that are the public looking at this, we had a gentleman in the position of planning and development and such, and of course he left for another community. So the change in that also, along with our city manager, retired from us and went on to another job here in the community. There's been a lot of changes in that process. So not all of those people on our team have been on board to push that out to the community like we could have. I think more recently you've seen a lot more interaction, and with the public sessions we did and things like that, because we do care. We want to hear what you say. We certainly do. And so, and you're right. They were really taken aback. In fact, the last thing they said, we're not coming up to get yelled at again. So this next meeting that we have, we're not going to be there tonight for us to discuss this. And so I realize they probably will watch this on the YouTube, but and the message isn't that we're critical of them. It's just that we're very protective of our community and of our industry and of all of the things that Brent and others have expressed here tonight. And I think we have a very active community in the sense of their activity on social media, on meeting with us. I think we know a lot of the community and we're friends with a lot of them, so they reach out to us and we hear more from people because of that. And I think that's a healthy thing. None of us shy away from that. So we look forward to doing that as we go forward through this next process too.
Having me wants to have you have the last word, but I always like to have the last word
Good.
too. Presque's in a unique situation compared to a lot of communities that are undergoing the VPI because we have such huge widths on our main streets. We have such widths between our buildings and stuff that we have really this opportunity to really get creative. And if you ask 10 people to draw what they want on that, they're going to come up with 10 different answers. And that's exactly what we've had for the last 2 years. In a lot of other communities, such as Sanford, Ellsworth, and especially Hollowell, where they did do this downtown revital, there wasn't a lot of choice, a lot of room to work with. It looks nicer. They've got a 15% increase in business in Hollowell alone. They pointed all at the VPI, saying that was the impetus, that it was a lot of funds leveraged from federal and state funds, and didn't cost the local community what it could have to do that. And I don't think that community looked at it all that deeply anyway, because they said you're not going to do much because you only got so much to work with. It's like a small bread pan. We've got a cookie sheet that's turned sideways, basically, here in Presque. We've got this large opportunity and a lot of different things that we're all trying to do and say this is better than that. And I think over the next 6 or 7 years that we will have that recipe figured out so that we're making the best possible product in the end. So, you want to come back? You want me to have the last word? Would someone like to make a motion? It's in your agenda, guys.
Is it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Read it. If you can find it. I can't remember where we put it.
We are on number 12. Oh, 11.
I didn't turn enough pages.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to consider the commitment to the downtown VPI project.
Second.
Been moved by Jeff, seconded by Craig. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? 6-0 unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Again, thank you everybody else for, we only have one more item on the agenda, so if you give us just a moment, we'll get through that. Item 12 is the resolution to allow the NBRC, which stands for Northern Borders Regional Commission, thank you, Tom, application. So I'll ask the city manager to introduce that topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a grant, actually Kim is gonna just come up and touch base on it. We are applying for an NBRC grant, and in order to do so, we need authorization to move forward. And Kim will describe a little bit about it.
Good evening, Council. We have been approved to put in a full application with Northern Border Regional Commission. We have to go through several phases before we get to that point where we are approved or disapproved, and we have been approved to move forward with this particular application. It's a $300 project to upgrade the,
300.
what'd I say?
300.
It's 300,000.
1,000, yeah.
That's
Okay.
better.
Sorry. I was sleeping back there. No. To upgrade the kitchen in the forum. The kitchen at the forum is 49 years old. It is essentially a snack concession booth type kitchen. There's no stove, there's no range, there's no dishwasher. The list goes on. So because of that, we are getting more requests to hold large functions in the forum where they are asking for catering, and we are unable to meet those demands, and as such, we are losing revenue. In the last year alone, we've had to turn away 4 large events that would have brought in a gross revenue of almost $250,000. And that's a big income that could come into the city and offset some of our expenses. The grant would be $240,000 from NBRC, $60,000 match, which is secured. And in order to put that application in, which is due in the next couple of weeks, we have to have this resolution to go in with the application that allows me to put in the application.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Any questions?
Councilor, comments or questions?
The other thing, that is, the form is considered a, what's the proper term?
Emergency shelter.
Yes, so this will allow proper cooking abilities.
Correct.
Should,
It would have a big impact for that as well, because if we did indeed have to service the community in that capacity, right now we can't feed them.
We can feed
This
them
would allow
bags
us
of
to do
chips
that.
and
And we
that's
now have an event planner in place. So we can more effectively use that event planner by being able to have larger events if we have an upgraded kitchen. And I think the grant application has a good chance.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from council? Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Kimberly Smith on behalf of the city of Presque to apply for and accept grant funds from the Northern Borders Regional Commission. The named authorized official has permission to sign all NBRC investment documents that bind the applicant for $240,000 in NBRC funding for the renovations to the kitchen at the Forum, 84 Mechanic Street, Presque.
Seconded.
And moved by Councilor Willett and seconded by Councilor King. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed, 6-0 unanimous. Thank you very much. Next to the last item on our agenda is city manager comments. So our city manager's report, please. Who is this young man anyway, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, introduce this young guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from no, that is my son Eli, and yes, he does wear sandals and socks all year round.
Perfect. Perfect.
But we love him very much.
Thanks for your help tonight, Eli.
Thanks, Eli.
Yes.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
You know, I was thinking about a manager's report earlier, and I thought, well, lot of emotion here tonight. A lot going on, a lot of great decisions and things, a lot of great rhetoric, and really, what a wonderful display of what municipal government is all about. Those coming, offering opinions, sharing their feelings, and collectively working together to define our future. I mean, to me, Presque Isle is quite strong if you look at what we are doing as a community and how we are working together and how we are coming together. Change is hard. Change is very, very hard. And it brings out a lot of emotions, as we've seen. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but what's great about it is when you bring out those emotions, you bring out the community. And I think that what's really wonderful about that is in Presque Isle, regardless of our thoughts, views, whatever it may be, what I've seen from Presque Isle and what I hold in my heart is it's a community that rises together, that comes together to face any piece of adversity or any challenge. We come together and work together to make it happen. Tomorrow's going to be a new day. We will rise tomorrow, and we've got some items to work on, obviously. And what's exciting about that is we're going to rise together. And over the next few years, as we work on this project and other items, you know, it'll be great for us to be collaborative. Sorry, I keep cutting in and out. It'll be great for us to be collaborative. It'll be great for us to sit around the table, you know, around the table so that we can all work hand in hand. So I just want to say, on behalf of the city staff, on behalf of myself, thank you all very much for coming out. Thank you to all those watching online. We were up to 46 views at one point, so that's incredibly strong, considering that no one used to watch our YouTube. So that is wonderful. They
So
really
it
like.
worked tonight. Yeah.
It worked tonight, and there was sound. I hope. Thanks, Eric. Thank you. Thank you to all those on Facebook. But that said, I just want to say thank you all very much. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the discussion. Thanks for everyone coming out. This was, again, just a tremendous display of municipal government and a couple really cool things. The city staff was actually just named we are one of the best managed towns in Maine under 10,000 citizens. So we just received that award this past week. And also the VPI as well was also given a pretty significant award. The Village Partnership Initiative was also given a pretty significant award. I will never not say Village Partnership Initiative again, Kirk. But that was also just awarded Project of the Year, which had to remain confidential until, well, now. So kind of an interesting turn there. But again, thank you all very much. Thanks for coming out, and have a great evening.
Presque Isle City Council announcements. I got about 8 announcements to read, and I know the hour's late, and we all want to get out. Just bear with me for a minute. This is a busy month, and so Haunted Lantern Tours Friday and Saturday, October 11th and 12th at 6 and 7 p.m. If you're interested, contact the Presque Isle Historical Society. The Haunted Hearse Tours will begin again on October 17th at 7 p.m. and October 31st at 6, 7:30, and 9 on Halloween night. So again, contact the Historical Society. Roosevelt Day at the Museum. Celebrate Teddy Roosevelt's 166th birthday at the Maysville Museum, October 27th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, October 26th from 6 to 9, a hunter's breakfast is going to be held at the Anna Shrine of Aroostook. Is that the Shrine Club building?
Shrine Club.
On the Holton Road?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Saturday, October 26th is the first hunter's breakfast at the Shrine Club on the Holton Road. Trunk or Treat, Saturday, October 26th at 4 p.m. is sponsored by the fire station and our great Presque Isle Fire Department. So bring kiddos out on Saturday at 4 o'clock on the 26th. October 27th from 1 to 3, Halloween skating party at the Forum. Yes, we are building ice. October 26th at 7 p.m. is the Queen's Ball at the Northeastland Hotel, and it is hosted by the Northeastland and North State Federal Credit Union. The City of Presque Isle has the following employment vacancies: police officer, assistant city manager, part-time code enforcement officer, equipment operator, truck drivers, and forum. If you have any interest in these vacancies, please contact Kelly at our Human Resources Department here on 3rd floor City Hall, or our city manager. We have the following vacancies for boards and committees. The Assessment Review Committee is looking for 2 one-year alternates. The Audit Committee, 1 4-year member. Downtown Revitalization is looking for 1 4-year member. Library Board of Trustees, looking for 1 1-year alternate. The Rec and Parks Advisory Board is looking for 2 one-year alternates. The Zoning Board is also looking for 1 1-year alternate. Please see the City Clerk, Kim Finnemore, for an application or apply online. The next scheduled meeting of the Presque City Council will be on Wednesday, November 6, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. And that will be right the day after Election Day.
But I also forgot to put on the most important one.
Very important.
Very important one. We're going to have trick-or-treating here at City Hall from 2 to 4 on Halloween. And it's also the last day for absentee ballots that day, too.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Kim puts these announcements together every week, and I get to read them, so does a great job. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?